Hey guys, Runbuck with Runbuck on Games. I've got a Clan War Tactics video for you. How long's it been? I don't know. Month, 2 months. But anyway, we got rolled by a clan just recently in a potluck that we set up. One of the top fair play clans came in and took us on. And through that process, what we noticed was they basically closed almost 50%, if not more, of the Town Hall 9s with one style of attack. I refer to it as the 3-Go Royals Bow 2J Snipe, but we'll just call it 2J for short. So let's take a look at it in a couple different, we'll break it down in a couple different ways. First we'll look at the mix, then we'll go through and we'll take a look at the bases that kind of work with it, kind of look at some different bases and talk about why it works for that style of attack. Then we'll actually look at a few of those bases and attacks on those bases and talk about, first off, the attack vector and the associated pathing within the base and how that works with your jump spell placements, the 2J of the name. And then finally we'll take a look at some replays from the perspective of deployment timing, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and I think there's a way to kind of show it to you where it kind of helps you better understand what that means. So let's get to it. First off, the mix. Okay, mix-wise, it's pretty basic. First off with the Golems. Usually you're going to see 3. I've seen out of the 10 attacks or 9 attacks that we looked at, wait a minute, let me count. Yeah, 9, 10 total. 1 was using 2 Golems, and I question whether or not that was just jazz hands or really needed. So if you want to bias to a certain side, I'd say 3, but if you drop to 2, usually they're adding either Hogs or Loons, we'll talk about in a minute. Wizards tend to average around 8, but you can kind of vary that a little bit depending on how hard your cuts are for the entry point. So you got to get 2 cuts in to allow the main troops to drive in, that being the 2 Golems or the 3 Golems and the Royals themselves with the bowlers behind. That's the core attack team. So that's what the 4 wall breakers are about, and the 5 bowlers you see there. And then the Hogs or Loons thing, right? So what that is all about, we'll talk about a little bit later when we look at base styles, but if the base has an ability for the first jump to give you access to 3 ADs, you're typically going to probably be biasing towards Loons, but that's not very common, right? Because bases are symmetrical, so usually you'll need 2 jumps, and on the back side you're going through the second expo, and that's going to be more of a hog base attack. But however the base is biased, which we'll talk about in a minute, goes one way. You use slots for Hogs, you use it for Loons, but they're the same count, right? It's 13 to 23, but around 18 usually. 23 if you drop down to 2 Golems in the earlier comment. And last but not least, the remaining slots you use for your cut team to augment some of the wizards to enable your troops to flow nicely into the hole that your wall breakers make. Spells are always the same for everyone. You see the 2-day jump as one of the cores, and then you use the rage for the CC, and you got 2 poisons to deal with the CC as well. And lastly, a heal that you can use in your own personal timing, where you can kind of look at how the base is going. So that's mixed. Next up, let's take a look at bases and why they work, or what they look like when you should use this type of attack. Okay, ideal bases. I think I'm going to say there's two main keys to look for to consider this attack. I don't know if it makes it for sure, but these 2 things were consistent across all the bases I looked at. 1, you want to make sure that the base structure is such that however you decide to path through the base, that the 3 Golem team with bowlers and the Royals behind it are in the middle, but yet close enough to the edge that the edge defenses target them, because you need to have the distraction going on throughout the attack. So that's 1. 2, you need to make sure that either A, you can, with your 2 Golem team or your 3 Golem team with 2 jumps, you can either A, get 3 ADs off the first jump, like they're within range of that open area, or, which would be then the Loon attack, which is about 20% of the time, 10% of the time, or you would get to be, you can do a line with the 2 jumps where you get to 2 xbows and through the mid with the flow. So in this case, let's apply those rules to each base. I got 5 to look at. So this one here, you can see, well, you know, if I wall breaked here and then I'm flowing in, and let's say I jump, you basically, your flow would still be in range of the outside edge, so you could snipe action off the edge as it moves, and then they would probably turn and move this way, and then you can continue your snipe action as they move. So basically your 3 Golem team is staying inside the base but close enough to the edge where you get edge distract, and it's expo, so this base, and I get 2 expos off the flow for the jump, so I'm good. So that one would work for hog, right? This one here, again, is a hog because we're not, oh, by the way, the first one was not loon because notice how we only get 2 ADs off the initial jump, so it'd be harder to get the late loon sniping because they're slower. But this one too is kind of not symmetrical, right? Or it is symmetrical, so the ADs are spread. So again, it's going to be hog. But here's the flow, right? So if I take the pathing, I break here, I jump here, and then I jump here. You can see very early I get 1 expo. I come through the mid, and I get the 2nd expo on the backside. And meanwhile, as my troops are moving, look at the snipe action I'm getting, right? So this guy might be left out, but you actually probably here will be shooting over, so you can snipe it then. And it turns around, and then meanwhile you can snipe this. And as it comes here, you can snipe that, then you can snipe this, so you can see both factors are coming into play. So let's look at another one, so that one would work. This guy, if I remember correctly, how did this one flow? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, okay, so this one actually is again a hog action because if you look at the jumps, again, we're pretty spread on the ADs, so it's going to be hog action. But if we jump in at here, and then we're jumping here, and then jumping here, you can see how we get the 1 expo, and then late stage we have access to the other expo from here. And by doing that, we're getting distract action here, 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 here as it's moving, right? So they're all in range. This whole arc is in range of a team that's in this core. And as soon as it locks, then you could shoot in. So all 3 of those first ones are very good for distract on a main golem force moving through the middle of the base, not too far in to from the edge. This guy, though, notice is with a movement from this side. Let's say we did a jump here and then a jump here. We very quickly, with just 1 jump, have access to 2 ADs, and very quickly the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th. So because of the fact that you can kind of see how the ADs are sliced over, it becomes a loon-based attack, because then as your overall golem team moves into the mid and you got distract action, you can then move in off that and loon in off it. And it doesn't hurt that these ADs are kind of set back, so these are freebies anyway, right? So that's what I meant by the ADs be kind of shifted. So it's going to look not symmetrical if you're going to end up with a loon-based version of this. Here's another one that's kind of not symmetrical. See how we've got 3 here and then 1 offset for the ADs. So the flow of that would actually be, I think, if I remember right, let's look at this. Hang on a minute, I'm checking. Yeah, okay, there it is. So yeah, it would actually come up and through. So here, then with a jump here, then with a jump here, and so you can see very quickly we've got the 2 ADs down. Your core team is in this mid, but look at how you've got this nice arc of sniping that you can do as you're moving through that space. And then as this comes in and these get into range, then you can come off here and drive a snipe action off that. So those are the 5 base types, with examples of why they would work well, primarily thinking about how your troops are pathing through and where they're going to be and whether or not it enables them to be in your core teams in the middle enough to be in the middle but not far away from the edge where it's not doing a distract action for you. So the placement of the jumps are key. Let's switch now to the attack lines and pathing. Okay, last part of the video. Let's take a look at 4 attacks and kind of analyze. First, go through the attack and mark up the timing and deploy sequence and jump placements and such. And then from that, kind of debate if that was the ideal positioning and kind of get a sense through that process of how it works for any base. So first off, we've got this base here. What I would first do is, you kind of get a sense for maybe drawing a line for where the expos are, so it can give you a sense of, how you might flow. And usually what you'll see is they don't vary off of more than like 30-45 degrees from the first expo you're going after. So you might enter here, might enter on this side of the base, but in the end you're trying to go through this flow. One of the other things, remember, from our base design discussion is that if the ADs are symmetrical, or if you can get to 3 off of 1 jump pretty easily, you might think it's Loon, but you can tell this is pretty symmetrical with the ADs, so it's probably a hog based attack. So as such, we're going to focus the pathing more on the expos and not so much on the ADs. So let's go ahead and play it through. I'll bet they're going to come from one of these two sides, and we'll just kind of watch it go. Move it up to 4 times speed, and then we'll just stop on key parts. So right here at this point, we've dropped all 3 golems. You can tell there's clearly a cut action going. If I'd call that phase 0, I'd label both these parts phase 0. You can kind of tell by where the queen is of where they're hoping to get in. I'm surprised they let the queen actually get nicked up a little bit, but that's okay. She's still living. So now we've got the breakthrough. You can now confirm where they're going to make the push in. CC comes out. Sorry, dog's having a party again. So there's the first jump. You're going to engage the CC at that point. And it wasn't so much, I didn't see a consistency of like CC early, CC late. It didn't really seem to matter as long as you had your core team funneling and keeping tightly together. But notice at this point, you're going to get close to the wall. You're staying close to the wall. You're in mid, but you're staying by the wall, so distract as possible. Here comes the first hog action. We'll label this, and also the first jump goes down, I think, at this point. So we'll call this 2. We'll call these 3. So when we're at 3, one of the things you want to understand is the timing of the deployments. Look at where basically the units have been at this point. So this is at point 3. So you're getting distract off of this and this. So very nice distract timing for the first snipe set. The guys that I labeled 3. And then here come the second set of snipe sets. It's a hog with a baby dragon behind it. Really, this one you're not getting distract. The archer towers are engaged in targeting. So we didn't get the value. At this point, though, what we do have is we have basically the same feel, but this is 2 now, right? So this was 3, if I was going to label them on each side correctly. Where's that 2? It's 4, sorry, 4. So when we're at stage 4, let me erase that for you. So that's 4. Right, so let's keep going a little bit. Now here's the deploy, and again, we haven't broken into this box, right? So we're not getting distract off that box. So the attacks that are now happening here for what we'll call 5 are really not getting the distract value we want. And I guess the moral of the story is you're not going to always get distract for everyone's, but if you can shoot for maybe half of your snipe team coming in off distract, you're going to be doing pretty well. So instead of doing that, they just basically swarmed the side. All 3 went down at the same time. Took out the snipe team, and you're still got, even though we're at stage 6 now, our golem team is basically stalled out right there in the mid. So when you plan the attack out, you can see we were right in terms of when we drew the line. Here, we'll just flow it through to the end. There's some stuff up at the top it's dealing with, but they'll come back down. But you can see it was on the lines I talked about, basically where if you draw a line through the xbows, you're going to attack one and the other. You're not going to broadside the xbows as far as your line. So there's the jumps. So you can see we did come, basically the flow of the attack for the main force was right through here. Right? And then you sniped off that. And notice how we got really good distract off of maybe half the base. And then the rest of the base was a little offset, a little further more than we wanted to be away, but we dealt with it, and we had a majority of our hogs come off of that other side. So it worked out. So it doesn't have to be perfect, I guess would be the moral of the story. Let's take a look at another base, another hog base, number 22. Hang on a second. Okay, now we've gone through 1, so let's do this one a little quicker. Pre-checks, we would say ADs look symmetrical, so I'd be leaning to hogs out of the gate, although this one's kind of offset. You kind of might go Loon if you get in kind of like right here, but see how that one's still kind of far off. So I would probably say hog, and then so if I'm going to do hog, I kind of draw that line again and get a sense for where they might come from, right? Because we want to kind of flow that direction. Now let's see what happens. But the base does definitely fit the profile, right? So here's the first phase, again the cuts, so we're done with that. Now this is a pretty tight cut. I would usually try to be a little bit more, at least on this one side. This feels scary to me. But they've got this one building up, the queen's down, and then here comes the king behind that, right? So now we're in, and the jump's down. So you can see, notice the nice jump placement though. We've actually got access to the middle, jump radius of 3.5, 7 diameter. He's got access to all 3 boxes plus the middle, so 4 boxes open now at this point. And we're going to be flowing through. So now you can see we're going to get easy access to that first expo and actually have access to the second expo once we work through this clutter in this first box and the CC. What we're waiting for now is like, oh, big Tesla farm pops up. We're going to heal and rage. So there's an example of using the heal based upon your own timing. And in that case, he thought that there was an overwhelm of DPS dropping down the field. Here's the second jump, so we'll call that 2. We're still moving through. Now there's the first distract plays that just went down. They're coming down, so we'll label those 3. And let's look at where is the team at right now. Looks like right here. And we actually have distract off this and off this, I think. Here, let's watch now in slow-mo. Yep. Yep, so both those towers are shooting in, so very nice distract play on that 3 there, this being the third. The number 3, if I was going to try to make it clear, I could make it yellow. 3, 3. There you go. So that's where we are. So let's keep going, wait for our next deployment. There it is. So our next deploy is here. Now let's ask ourselves, where are we at in terms of the team at that point? We've got that's 4 right there. So see again, this one's probably going better than the first one in terms of distract plays. Again, we've got both ADs distracted inward towards the defenses here. Whoops, that'll kill you every time. Let's keep going. We'll just let it roll. We're waiting for the final distract. And there's one right there, but really at this point, we do have that final expo. That's giving us more trouble, but the expo is locked onto the golem, which is the other thing. Even if you can't get to it with 3 golems prancing around in the middle, the expos typically, if you're coming in from the edge, won't be locking first to your edge guys. They'll lock to the golems instead. And he actually gets distract off that, but to another hog. So now we have final distract here, and they were shooting in as the hog came in. So it's just, we lost there in the halfway. I mistakenly erased my marks through the point, but you can kind of see through that how we're using distract and choosing. Let's do one more, and we'll look at a loon base attack, and then we'll call it a day. All right? Okay, so here's the final base. Again, go through the checklist. We do see an offset set of ADs. Definitely, as you draw a midline on the base, we definitely have an asymmetrical base with the ADs on one side. So I'd be thinking Loon to start. You can also tell how off of one jump you can probably get, easily 3. So there's ways to get 3. So you might, in terms of attack line with this, with ADs, usually you're drawing like within the center of your the 3 that you're trying to get, and then kind of pick an angle like that. So let's see how it actually plays out. Let's go ahead and hit it 4 times speed and kind of talk about it. So we got a go whiz cut down. We haven't really broken through as of yet. We did not have a wall breaker fail. That's an actual intentional jump. Usually I would think that they would, it's interesting he came in, he's definitely coming in on the line within the kind of the, remember how I said center of the 3 and then, through there. So he's definitely coming in a little bit off the line of what I would have thought, but I might have thought that this would have been a better jump point. So we could debate why that wouldn't be. I mean, granted, you're going to hang up here a little bit, but it's not huge damage. But anyway, we're coming from here. We've done the cuts, so that would be phase 0. Right, and then here's your jump spell as far as phase 1. Let's wait for a distract play. He actually loses his bowlers to the outside, but they come back in because of the good cuts. Here, he still has not done any distract plays at this point in the attack. He's mosh pitting around. He gets in on the xbows. Still no distracts. He's waiting for that third AD to go down. It's okay, there's your first set. And notice with that, so that's 3. Where are we actually? The team itself is pretty much right at where he was going at. So they were shooting in. This whiz tower's not. It's shooting at the, but that's a late defense. Like if you highlighted the range there, you can see they're not going to pick up till it's too late. And now he's basically operating off that more of a classic surgical type distract. So here comes his 1, 2, 3. So this is all part of 4. So it's a pretty big group going down at 4. But again, look at where, because I think this is where the key you need to be thinking about with this attack planning is understanding as you visualize your troops, your core golem set moving through the base, thinking about when you're going to actually deploy to leverage distract. Here they are again. So there's 4. Right, so we do have like distract right here, I think. Like this guy is actually shooting in. Let's see. Yep, he sure is. So that's good. This guy is not. So this one we're actually going to take the damage. Where is he? I don't know where he was shooting. No, I think he was distracted. And then now you're done, right? So look at that. So that was basically those loons that he deployed out here were all just, you know, swag loons. He had like 5 extra loons that he didn't even need. So the loon deploy can be pretty powerful if the base is set up asymmetrically, but you got to be careful with it. I wouldn't go with symmetric bases. I think the hog deploys are more consistent. But the key of both is the distract and trying to visualize the flow of your golems through the base so that you can get off that. And then that then falls back into where do I put my jumps to make the flow of the troops stay in the middle but yet close to the edge so that the edge is shooting towards the troops so I can snipe them. Fine balance. I hope it helps, but it's a great attack and I'd recommend all Town Hall 9s, at least until the meta changes again, to be checking this attack out. Talk to you guys later.
What am I gonna do? My clan sucks. Hey, it's JTJ.
I think that's an all-out attack.
No, it's the legendary JTJU. 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 What? I like right on. You and this army. Download Clash of Clans for free. Then subscribe to JTJU and win.